Good evening, I'm Maciej Mikos and you're watching World News Tonight, live from Warsaw. On Sunday, Romania went to vote who will be the country's next president and is Bucharest to stay on its pro-European path. We'll have more on that in just a moment, but first, the latest headlines. Another Russian attack on Kiev. Children are among the wounded. Malfunction of the newest F-16 in Bulgaria sparks allegations of sabotage and attempted espionage. And Poles in the UK now earn more on average than the British. Romania elects its new president after the annulment of last year's vote. Much attention is paid to the transparency of the elections and whether they are safe from a foreign interference. Aisha Baci has this report.
Romania's presidential race was thrown into turmoil last October when pro-Russian candidate Călin Georgescu won the first round. The result was annulled by the Constitutional Court over alleged Russian interference. 5 months later, Romanians returned to the polls, but this time without Georgescu, now barred from running.
You have an election. The candidate that is leading after the first round is approved by the Constitutional Court, and it takes them a week to establish that the results are fine, everything is fine. Then it takes another week till the second round of the election, and on the eve of the second round of the election, the Constitutional Court, after being handed a document from the Secret Service, from the government, etc., decides that this candidate should be scrapped, that the first round should be scrapped and the candidate dismissed. Now he's even banned from running.
The pro-Kremlin candidate Georgescu was leading the polls at the time he was barred. So the controversial decision sparked nationwide protests and heightened voter frustration throughout the new campaign.
I'm not voting. I think it's an abuse of the state. What they did is unconstitutional.
It has been mostly focused on divisions between those who thought that the annulment of elections was a constitutional and democratic measure meant to protect the vote and the integrity of the elections, and those who were challenging that assumption and felt that they were being robbed of their vote.
Sharp criticism also came from the U.S., notably Vice President J.D. Vance and Donald Trump Jr., who voiced their disapproval of the annulled vote, turning Romania's vote into a transatlantic electoral controversy.
Romania straight up canceled the results of a presidential election based on the flimsy suspicions of an intelligence agency.
As the new campaign kicked off, reassurances of strong U.S.-Romania ties came thick and fast, with leaders emphasizing the importance of the bilateral relationship.
There is no free world. There is no future for Europe and the European Union without the United States. From a military point of view, for us, the relationship with America is essential.
The Romanian government even hosted a delegation from the U.S. Congress recently, ensuring the rerun will be transparent and fair.
We're doing that because this country is important to us.
And it is. Romania is, after Poland, the second largest force of NATO's eastern flank. The country hosts U.S. ballistic missile defense systems and is constructing NATO's largest military base in Europe, set to be ready in 2040. As such, Washington and Brussels are closely monitoring the situation to ensure stability and cooperation in the region amid the intense geopolitical environment. I'm Aisha Baci reporting for TVP World.
Russia has launched another drone attack on the Ukrainian capital last night. At least 11 people were wounded, including 2 children. We're going now live to our Ukraine correspondent, Oskar Terzi in Kyiv. Good evening, Oz. The New York Times reports that the US wants to send a refurbished Patriot air defense system from Israel to Ukraine, and moreover, Europeans are also discussing relocating some batteries from Greece and Germany. So in your opinion, will Ukraine receive more protection against Russian attacks soon?
Well, the Ukrainians certainly hope so. It's something they've been asking for a very long time. Just overnight, we've had 4 people killed, 30 injured, 11 of those injured here in the Ukrainian capital. Just goes to show that the Ukrainian capital is routinely subjected. It's not just areas in the east close to the Russian front line. It's also the capital areas in the west of Ukraine that are routinely hit, and civilians are killed daily in these attacks. So air defense is high on Ukraine's agenda. Now, they'll be encouraged to hear news of these systems that Europeans are trying to find for them, and coming from Israel too. However, the bigger question is going to be, there are still systems, defense provisions that have been promised to Ukraine that have still not been delivered. So when it comes to these kinds of guarantees from Ukraine, what they're really looking for is delivery on those promises, not more promises to send equipment. They really need the equipment here. As you're seeing those scenes on your screen happening day in, day out here in Ukraine, and air defense is a major priority for the Ukrainian government here.
That was Oscar Taji reporting from Kyiv. Thank you very much, Os, for this report. It's been just a month since Bulgaria welcomed its first US-made F-16 fighter aircraft to the country, and ever since, the high-tech jet has caused major controversy. The defense minister believes the president is hoping to earn political capital by blowing a routine technical issue out of proportion, as John Todd now reports.
The latest addition to Bulgaria's Air Force touched down on April 2nd. This F-16 is the first of 8 US-made jets that Sofia agreed to buy under a $1.3 billion deal signed in 2019. But a month on, this high-tech fighter jet is causing political turbulence after a technical issue sparks speculation about the cause. President Rumen Radev has hit out at Boyko Borisov, the leader of the country's largest political party, who was prime minister at the time of the 2019 deal, over the F-16's procurement process. Rumours even suggested hacking of the systems and test pilot error. Bulgaria's defence minister says a hardware glitch was spotted during routine handover checks and will be fixed at no extra cost by Lockheed Martin engineers. He says the issue has been blown out of proportion.
Unfortunately, a technical issue has escalated into a domestic and foreign political problem with political consequences. And regrettably, this started at the highest level of the state, from President Radev, his advisors and political leaders of other parties.
The matter will now go before the National Assembly's Security Services Oversight Committee on Thursday, May 8th.
I hope that the Bulgarian public will also be informed, because the speculation that has been going on in all directions is not something we should be proud of. I also believe that this is a matter of national security.
Bulgaria has recently endured intense political instability with 7 parliamentary elections over the past 4 years. As the country battles to upgrade its ageing Soviet MiG aircraft to match NATO standards, it should be no surprise that high-tech jets have become a political football. John Todd for TVP World.
Romania is electing its new president. Polling stations across the country were supposed to close at 8 CET. And so we're going now live to Bucharest. Our correspondent Paweł Trzaskowski, who has been following the elections. Good evening, Paweł. Are the early results already in? And do we know more about the turnout this time around?
Hello, Maciej. Well, you are right. The polling stations closed literally minutes ago. And what we know for certain is the turnout, which was, as expected, high and reached more than 50%. And this high turnout could be attributed to the fact that that was an election rerun. And the rerun was needed since, as we mentioned in the previous report, the previous attempt to elect a president in Romania was cancelled by the country's constitutional court, citing foreign malign interference that was supposed to favour and promote an extreme right candidate, Călin Georgescu. Călin Georgescu was eventually banned from running in this rerun, and this is why the candidate lineup this time round was quite different. One of the familiar faces was that of George Simion, a leader of the right-wing Our Party, who took part in this failed attempt attempt in 2024 with mediocre success, but having received backing from Călin Georgescu himself, he was leading the polls, and according to exit polls that have just come through, he is making it to the second round this time round. He actually delivered a statement earlier today during which he suggested that if he is elected president, Romanians could see a return of Călin Georgescu to the country's politics. Please listen.
My prerogatives as a president are to ask the people what they want, to respect the Constitution and the will of the Romanian people. There are several ways in which, if the Romanian people want, Mr. Georgescu can be in the leadership, and we will use it. We can form a majority and have him as a prime minister. We can have snap elections, or we can call for a referendum.
Whoever George Simion will be facing in the second round is still inconclusive, because exit polls give the second lead both to Crin Antonescu, a veteran Romanian politician who returned from his political retirement to run with the support of the current ruling coalition, or to Mayor of Bucharest, Nicușor. Both are given 23% of support in the exit polls. So, of course, we will have to wait for the official results to conclude, to determine the second candidate who will make it to the presidential runoff that will be held in May 18th. However, for now it is certain that the runoff will happen, and I actually had an opportunity to talk to an expert, a political analyst, before the elections, and asked him whether the fact that the elections are being held means that Romania is recovering from the political crisis. Please listen to the response he gave me.
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that the country is healing because you have a stable government in place, you have a stable parliament, you have a working parliament on one hand, and on the other, no, because there are a lot of, for not providing a relevant story, relevant in terms of electoral, in terms of what really happened, it led to a lot of frustration, maybe a lot of conundrums.
So, George Simion or Crin Antonescu or Nicușor in the second round of presidential elections on May 18th. Maybe this will help resolve this political conundrum in Romania. Back to you, Maciej.
That was Paweł Trzaskowski reporting from Bucharest. Thank you very much, Paweł. Ukraine has opened the first shelter serving as an underground school in the Odessa region, thus enabling children to return to offline education amid ongoing war. Nearly 1 in 7 schools in Ukraine had been destroyed or damaged, and about 430,000 students in the war zone still have no access to in-person learning. Our own Don Albert visited the school and has this report.
This is the first underground shelter under the New Bomb Shelters for Ukrainian Schools program, initiated and funded by both the EU and Lithuania with Irish financing support. The facility was completed in less than a year and provides a safe learning environment for 700 Ukrainian students.
This shelter is very important for children. When we didn't have it, we had to run, as they say, 700 meters to another shelter. But it was dangerous. It lasted 5 minutes, and it was impossible to accommodate all the children as we would like.
Thanks to the underground school, lessons continue even during airstrike alerts.
You know, sometimes it happens twice a day, sometimes once, sometimes not at all. But when it's a very busy day, it's 2 or 3 times a day, we go down to the shelter.
The shelter consists of 24 rooms, which serve a couple of different functions.
This shelter has really provided us with a safe space. And not just for the educational process during a period of anxiety, but also for after-school hours, extracurricular activities, sports development, artistic development, psychological relief, safe space rooms.
Because of Russia's full-scale invasion, nearly 1 in 7 schools in Ukraine has been destroyed or damaged, and about 430,000 students have no access to in-person stationary learning, according to the Ukrainian Minister of Education and Science. Such shelters can provide hope for Ukraine as they strengthen the country's resilience and contribute to restoring everyday life amid the ongoing war. Reporting from Odessa, Don Arleth, TVP World.
Poland has seen a spate of attacks on healthcare workers after Tuesday's deadly assault on a Polish doctor. 4 more such incidents took place, 1 against a nurse and 3 against doctors and paramedics. In response to the attacks, medical workers announced they would take to the streets of Warsaw on May 10th in a silent protest against violence. Piotr Miszczuk has more.
After 2 men beat up paramedics on Wednesday, on Thursday a nurse was hit several times by a man she was trying to help. On Friday, 2 more attacks took place. In the northern city of Gdynia, a drunk woman attacked doctors and paramedics, while an intoxicated patient had to be restrained by a doctor and a soldier at a military hospital in the Polish southern city of Kraków.
He started arguing with us, did not cooperate, and did not follow instructions. As a result, we had to use force against him. Well, during this time, the man, unfortunately, continued to fight to free himself. While we were waiting for the blood alcohol result, he freed one hand and started setting fire to the sheet. The soldier who intervened got hit in the face.
But the most dreadful attack in Poland occurred on Tuesday when a 35-year-old patient stormed the hospital office and stabbed his doctor multiple times.
I regret to inform you that one of the doctors of the university hospital today died in the line of duty, as it must be called. He died while performing his duties. He was attacked by a patient without any warning during a visit with another patient. Unfortunately, despite the involvement of a great number of people, as more than 20 people were involved in saving the doctor's life, it was not possible to save him.
Following the attack, medical workers said on May the 10th they will travel to Warsaw to hold a protest to stem the tide of attacks. They say this violence is caused by online media hate.
I am exposed to this wave of hatred and aggression from patients on a regular basis, but also looking through social media I can see what is going on, how we are perceived, what kind of hate wave is hurled at the medical community, how much hatred there is towards doctors and towards medical staff.
Some medical workers also say alcohol is a key factor behind the aggression.
Once I had a patient in a life-threatening condition under the influence of alcohol. He was very aggressive and wanted to discharge. His aggression escalated despite numerous attempts to convince him to stay in the hospital. In my opinion, such cases are very, very popular here.
At the beginning of the year, Poland faced a flurry of attacks on paramedics. In late January, one paramedic died after he was stabbed by a drunk man he had come to help. Ever since then, paramedics have been equipped with knife-proof vests and have received self-defense training, but many of them are of the opinion that this does not suffice.
The aggressor is often someone observing us and attacks when we least expect it. And these self-defense techniques may not always be effective.
For TVP World, I'm Piotr Miszczuk.
And now some interesting news from the UK. According to the latest study, Poles living in Britain earn more on average than the British themselves. Konrad Gorliński investigates the nature of this economic phenomenon.
Long gone are the days of the so-called Polish plumber. New data coming out of the UK shows that Poles living in the United Kingdom are now making more, on average, than native Brits themselves. When Poland joined the EU back in 2004, nearly half of the workers moving to the UK were from Poland. Many of them took low-paying jobs like picking fruit, driving lorries, or serving drinks, while many others chose manual work in construction, not to mention the oft-referenced stereotype of the Polish plumber. Back then, Poles were earning a median of just over £1,300 a month. That's about 15% less than a native Brit would make. Today, that number has risen to £2,500. So what's behind this great push forward? Well, there are a number of factors at play here. The first being the question of work ethic. Migrant groups in general have a lot more motivation to do better, as they usually arrive with nothing in their pockets.
If you have no money that you can fall back on, as most migrants do, then you go for the jobs that pay better.
Many Poles learned English, got their qualifications recognized in the UK, or learned new competencies there, and eventually just settled in and learned the ropes. And then there was Brexit.
The less well-paid have tended to have left the UK since Brexit.
The post-Brexit exodus saw a lot of people who weren't making the big salaries return to Poland. According to a recent article in The Economist, the number of Polish workers on UK payrolls has dropped by nearly 25% since 2017. And finally, the reason that applies most today is that for many Poles, it's just not worth it to go to the UK anymore, unless it is for a high-paying professional position.
In the old days, it would be the case that a Pole working in Poland would literally earn 3 or 4 times less than a Pole working in exactly the same job in the UK.
Since 2004, Poland's median wage has increased from 52% to 71% of the UK's when adjusted for purchasing power. As the UK is no longer in the European Union, it's just as easy for a Pakistani to enter the job market as it is for a Pole. In 2024, just 1,200 Poles were issued work permits in the UK.
Most of those permits will be for high-paid jobs in the City of London, or as professionals, or as consulting engineers on specific projects.
Considering the current economic realities, even if the UK were to open up its labor market to Europe again, the next wave of low-wage workers will be unlikely to come from Poland. Konrad Gorlinski, TVP World.
Romanians have just finished voting in the first round of presidential elections after last year's vote was cancelled due to foreign interference in the democratic process. And to talk about the latest from Romania, we're joined by Eusebius Slavitescu, a former Romanian diplomat. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me back.
Oh, yes. We wouldn't miss the opportunity because it was you I had the opportunity to talk about last November, and then I remember you were genuinely surprised by the results. How would you comment on them now? Just to remind our viewers, is George Simion with 33.1, Crin Antonescu with 22.9, Nicușor with 20.9, and Victor Ponta 14.7. Elena Lasconi, interestingly, 4.4. We know those are very early exit polls. Yeah. But still, your comment.
Yeah. So back in November, while I was shocked, I was also very scared because we all woke up the next day having, number one, somebody who is incredibly pro-Russian aligned. So that was a shock. So the results as they look right now, let's keep in mind these are the exit polls from the 7 o'clock, so we have 2 hours in between, right. And the votes from diaspora are not count in, which can change everything. So let's take the results as we have them. The Electoral Authority authorized 3 houses to lead these exit polls, and we have 2 of them now published. And both of them are giving George Simion, the leader of the far-right nationalist party, as the first in the runoff. That's a fact. In the second place, however, nothing is settled. In my opinion, the number 3 now, the independent mayor of Bucharest, Nicușor, is going to get into the runoff. Because, again, the diaspora votes, and we have a few millions there, and we have had almost twice or almost 3 times participation rate more than in November in diaspora. And most of those votes, at least 40 or 50% of them, they will go to Nicușor. This is what I'm expecting it. And those votes can put Nicușor in front of, in the second place.
So why would the Romanian diaspora vote for Nicușor?
Because he's actually fully independent. He won the mayor. He won the town hall of Bucharest 1 year ago with an incredible score, 47%. first. I mean, nobody ever got that. So he's very popular in Bucharest. The question was, is it nationally he's going to be as popular as he was in Bucharest? Because nationally nobody really knows who he was. But right now, I mean, things are looking pretty good. Let's see how it goes. But regardless if Nicușor Dan, the mayor of Bucharest, or Crin Antonescu, the social democrat and liberal candidate, common candidate, wins, in terms of how Romania will look like in the next 4 years, let's just say it's not much of a difference between the two of them. Both of them are pro-EU, both of them are pro-NATO, both of them are pro-Ukraine in helping Ukraine. I mean, both of them are pretty okay for most of the big stuff.
But George Simion?
George Simion, he's bad news. He's bad news. I mean, he's bad news for me, although 33% according to one of the exit polls, or 36% according to the other percent of Romanians voted for him. That's fair game. He's actually the only candidate and the only politician in Romania. I'm not surprised at all by the score, because he has been consistently the only one traveling around Romania, across Romania. In my village, he's been next to the Black Sea shores, but he's done so in every village, in every city across Romania in the past 4 years, which none of the others have ever done. And sometimes he's insulted, sometimes he's applauded. But this is the root
people's candidate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I have to give it to him. These are facts. So the score for George Simion is not a surprise for me. However, I'm not sure exactly where is he going to get the necessary votes to get into the runoff. From where? Mm-hmm. Because most of those so-called, this frenzy patriotism or sovereignism, as you call it, has somehow dissipated since the Constitutional Court forbidden Mr. Călin Georgescu. So he's got the most of the votes. The others can still get some votes from some other segments. I don't see where he's going to get some more votes. So I'm definitely, again, this is my opinion, I'm definitely also hoping that he's not going to be our president.
Right, so we've discussed the clear winner, the hopefuls, and what about the biggest losers? Elena Lasconi, last time had the second result. Now it's only 4.4%. How to explain it?
Or 2.5, according to the other one.
Well done.
I'm not surprised at all, to be honest. I've said this many times, here included a few times. She's done so many mistakes in terms of political and strategy campaigning, from writing a letter to Donald Trump on Twitter in a very bad English, to telling, for example, in one of the interviews 2 weeks ago to the mayor of Bucharest, going so far off, saying, inventing that Nicușor Dan isn't saying, I love you to his daughter. I mean, some very intimate stuff that has nothing to do in the public sphere. Anyway, so she's done so many mistakes. She's got in the runoff in November, not because she was so very well loved or admired, although she is. I mean, she's a mayor of a relatively small town. She's done an amazing job there. But going nationally, it's a different kind of story, and she hasn't made it. And also, I mean, a lot of the comments, not to mention 3 days ago, and this was a huge political scandal, she went out presenting a few photos that are obviously deep fake with Nicușor Dan, the mayor of Bucharest, in an alleged meeting with some Secret Service guys. And I mean, a lot of the experts already went out and said that those were fake. And this was 1 day before the end of the political campaign. So that was the objective was to explode the whole campaign. Well, it worked against her.
Right. Leslie, and maybe it's the question I should have asked in the very first place. I mean, what powers does a president in Romania have? Because maybe it's, much ado about nothing, and whether it's George Simion or Crin Antonescu, it would make no difference to the government.
Yeah.
Would it?
That's actually a very good question. We should have started with that one. So Romania is a semi-presidential republic, not as France or United States, a little bit like Poland, where the president has exclusive competences in security, defense, and foreign policy. So these are his attributes, and he's done so. However, in terms of how to administrate a country, everything of that sort is done by the government. So he has to some extent, limited powers, competences. However, traditionally in Romania, because he is the politician receiving the most of the votes, he is seen as the person most legitimate in terms of, political campaign and votes. And also, by the constitution, he has the role of mediating between different political factors within the society.
So there's a lot of deciding ahead of Romanians ahead of the second round of elections on May 18th?
Exactly.
On May 18th. Eusebiu Slavitescu, former Romanian diplomat, was our guest this evening. Thank you very much. And thank you for watching and stay with us for much more news and features here on TVP World.